man.
You fucked up.
There we go. That's the coolest way to open a beer.
Yeah, but it's only cool if you don't fuck up the first time.
Yeah. I'd like to see
Nothing.
you do it. You couldn't even do it. If you're stranded. If
I was stranded.
If you were stranded on a desert island, a desert island, and you had a beer and a butter knife, you'd be screwed, man.
I can do it. I have a bottle opener right here. Like, why overcomplicate things?
Pixar didn't happen, man. And I don't see no pics.
You know, that's like, I always have this conversation, right? It's like, if you had a hot tray in the oven, do you grab an oven mitt to take it out or just your bare hands? Like, obviously you could do it with your bare hands, but it's stupid. Makes no sense.
Oh, man.
Cleet prematurely jumped into the beer.
I'm so sorry. Take a sip of that right now.
Is it not good?
That is, that's going to put some hair on your
God
chest.
damn it, Cleet. So it's we're on a Big Bad Baptist kick. Cleet got a couple Big Bad Baptists.
$15 beer.
Yeah, they're pricey. But this is the Breakfast Baptist. It's got some pancakes on it with some syrup running down.
I was expecting a sweet flavor when I, took a sip of this, and it punched me in the face again.
Imperial? Oh, it's an Imperial Stout. Yeah. Maple syrup, coffee, cocoa, and salt.
Oh, man.
So you were like imagining just a mouthful of pancakes.
Yeah, or something like a little sweet, like nothing like overly sweet, but
oh my god, dude,
it's black.
That is dark.
Yeah,
That's.
While you're taking a sip of that,
I can smell. Holy.
Christine and I watched the Cube remake, which apparently you haven't heard of. We were talking about.
I haven't heard of it.
Segment or off the podcast. But it's just it was a remake of a film that was made maybe 20 or 30 years ago. These people that wake up just in this cube, and it's like a giant cube surrounded by like cubes within it, right? And they just wake up there, so they're trying to escape. And there's like just booby traps throughout the cube. Like you get impaled, you get laser effed. Like
laser effed.
Yeah. Like it was a good show. I saw it was remade in 2021, and I'm like, I gotta fucking watch this.
When was the original?
It was Japanese horror, I believe, because but it was really good.
But when was the original made?
It's old, man. It's old, probably the 80s or 90s.
Wow.
But it's good. It's good.
Interesting.
Anyone who's watched the original Cube, I think you'll like it. I think they paid a great homage to the originals. They're a little bit different, but they they deviated just a little bit. I liked it a lot. Well,
anytime you say that something's good, with how frequently you say you don't like things, I'm okay, it goes on my list. So I know I said it last week, but I was one weekend off. The new Evil Dead movie comes out this upcoming weekend when this records.
Hell yeah.
There's also another one from Ari Aster called Beau is Afraid. Have you seen any of Ari Aster's movies?
No.
Midsommar or Hereditary?
Nope.
Okay. Genuinely, Cleet, you would love these ones. Like, it's the most unsettling horror you'll imagine.
So anxiety-inducing.
It is anxiety-inducing. It is very much so anxiety. And fun fact, Midsommar was actually filmed here in Utah.
Oh, really?
Most of it, at least. I'm not going to say the whole thing, but yeah, it was like Park City.
Oh, I was going to say my backyard. Oh, I was going to say something now that you mentioned Park City. So you know how I do my Amazon Flex, right?
Yes.
So I was doing a route at 3:30 to 7 or something like that, like really early in the morning. Right?
In the AM.
And yeah. And they took me to Park City, which is up in the mountains for your viewers that don't know, our viewers that don't know. And I don't know what, but I was like sitting there delivering a package, and it was not like in the city of Park City, right?
So it's like the outskirts, yeah.
So it was dark as hell, right? I'm sitting there like just delivering, and all of a sudden I get this weird feeling that something's watching me, like a mountain lion. Dude, I don't know if I just freaked myself out, but I'm like, I felt like vulnerable on the back of my neck.
Were you listening to our last episode about the mountain lion in the mall?
No, I think it was a bobcat, or it might have been a mountain lion. But no, I just got that feeling that something was like watching me, and I like hurry up, put down the package, ran back to my car, and I drove off. I didn't have the feeling for the rest of the trip, but I literally felt like there was a predator just like, licking its chops while watching me, man. It was creepy.
I need the doorbell footage of this. Just Cleet running up, zinging the package. You're hurrying, taking a picture on your route back.
Fuck, it's not working.
I'm not safe. I'm not safe.
Damn it, Jeff.
That would be hilarious.
Why do you make me do this, Jeff?
God damn. Yeah, your early morning Amazon runs, I couldn't do it, man. I can't wake up that early.
There's something peaceful about it. I really like it. They don't pay enough, but it's nice, man.
Yeah.
It's nice.
But anyway, so we've got the beer out of the way. I still haven't taken a sip. I'm still holding it. I know, but I've been talking.
Right now.
All right.
Take a sip.
God damn, Cleet.
Yeah. Like, I think I could handle a lot of beers, and I'm going to drink all of this. Don't get me wrong.
Can you imagine if you sat down for pancakes and this is what it tasted like?
Yeah, you just like drizzle it on your pancake.
It's not bad. Like it's good. But it's one of those ones that you just kind of have to sip.
Yeah.
The orange stick one was good. Like that one was good. You just bought the two bad Baptists.
I don't know what it is with me and beer, man, but I pick out.
Yeah, the one that still stands out to me is the one that was literally called Terrible. And you're like, this is good. This is going to be good.
Somebody got pissed and wrote in the comments and unsubscribed. They called us like blokes.
Yeah.
Like someone got really offended by that.
Did we talk about that? I don't think we've talked about it on the show. Yeah, the episode where if you've been around and listening to us for a while, thank you, first of all. But we had Cleet bought a beer that was literally called Terrible. And it was terrible. It was awful. It tasted like ball sweat or something. And it was just not good. And someone in the comments was so mad. They're like, who buys a beer called Terrible and drinks it? You guys are blokes. I was like, wow, man, you were more upset than we were, and we drank it. Like, I wasn't happy about it, but damn, tell me how you really feel.
Put yourself through suffering. All right, so what are we doing tonight? We got to jump into this.
Yeah, we're doing something fun. It's another viewer submission, which is fantastic. It's been a minute since we've done one of those, but our listener Jordan wrote in, and he wanted us to do a more in-depth look of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways we could have gone, right? Because obviously it's a film, several films, which we'll talk about, but I imagine, and if I'm wrong, Jordan, I apologize. You can leave in the comments, but I was thinking you were probably going for more of the real life inspiration behind it. So I kind of did both, which is kind of cool. But Cleet, question, like, did you ever in your life, like even now, did you think that like it was based off of true events?
Yeah, that's what it says in the movies, right? It says
exactly, but it's not.
It's not?
No, like it's inspired by real life things that happen. Obviously, we'll talk about other serial killers, and I'll give you one guess to like which serial killer you think that is based off of. But no, there's two serial killers. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, it's not real. But like you said at the beginning of the film, it says this is inspired by, I have the actual saying here, but yeah, it's not real.
It's loosely based off of some serial killer.
Right. I literally for the longest time thought this was something that actually happened. I was like, damn. Because the opening of those films are so like, it's like the old school camera scrolling through and it's like the footage you're about to see. It's creepy. But yeah.
So I'll be doing the filler episodes tonight, and that's people from Let's Not Meet talking about their encounters of almost running into a serial killer and being abducted.
Damn.
If you guys want to request content from us, just send us an email at entertheabysspod@gmail.com.
Please and thank you.
Without further ado, let's jump into it, Britton.
Let's do it. Okay, so again, a deep dive into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, again, came from our listener, Jordan, so thank you very much for it. Asked us to cover an in-depth look. So the original film of the same name, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, except chainsaw is two words in the original film, not one, so it's chainsaw. It was released in the year 1974 and featured a gruesome serial killer by the name of Leatherface and claims to be based on true events. While it is true that there is a grain of truth to some of what took place in the film, the majority is in fact fiction. However, we're going to dive face first into this story, talk about some good old-fashioned horror. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, again, released in 1974, it was directed by Tobe Hooper. He mentioned that some details of the murders themselves, including the iconic skin mask that Leatherface wears, were in fact based on the real-life murders of serial killer. Do you want to take a stab? Do you remember who?
Casey.
No.
Man.
Ed Gein.
Who?
Ed Gein.
Yeah, I never would have guessed.
Or Gein. Gein. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ed Gein. We'll just call him Gein. So the Ed Gein murders are believed to have taken place between 1954 and 1957, but the biggest difference here is that Gein murdered in Wisconsin, not Texas. So, loosely based on what he did, but not in the same state.
Just moved it to Texas.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, it's, what would it be? The Wisconsin-Texas chainsaw murders?
Yeah, it wouldn't be as good, He just has, like, cheese in his back pocket.
Big old cheese helmet. I'm going to get you. So I'm almost positive that Gein will make another appearance in our series, especially the serial killers in each state, because this guy was fucked up beyond repair. So we're going to do a more deep dive at that time, but we'll kind of cover a high level here. But Hooper, the director, said, and I quote, "My relatives that were based in a town close to Ed Gein told me these terrible stories, these tales of human skin lampshades and furniture and such as that. A little bit of grave robbing, I think." Hooper himself was a native Texan and said that Gein was a boogeyman figure to him growing up in campfire tales, but didn't know much on the real story. So, it's kind of like sit around and be like, oh, this guy's going to come for your skin. But like the skin lampshades, it doesn't ring a bell. I'm surprised you haven't heard of Ed Gein before.
No, I know who he is.
Okay.
He was the original leg lamp guy. I'm kidding.
I mean, you're not.
Leg skin.
Oh, we're going to get there, man. You're not wrong. This guy was fucking sick. For those who don't know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film tells the story of a woman named Sally and her brother going to an old family home in Texas with a group of friends. They run out of gas along the way and stop at a nearby home for some help, despite the usual horror movie ominous warning from a random hitchhiker. You gotta have that old guy with like no teeth, like, you don't want to go over there.
Go down that road.
Home's back where you came.
Dun, 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 dun.
The home is owned by goddamn. The home is owned by the craziest family of cannibals you ever did see, including our main antagonist, Leatherface. Leatherface is a massive hulk of a man wielding a chainsaw and a mask made of skin, which is actually extremely terrifying. Like, if you haven't seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you don't know, like, Leatherface is actually a pretty goddamn creepy killer.
I still think he couldn't beat Jason Voorhees in a fight, but, I think he could do a good fight.
Yeah. I mean, we'll never know, because you had Freddy versus Jason. Like, we got to know that one.
Yeah.
But, like, Leatherface versus Jason?
Yeah.
So you think Jason wins that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So machete over chainsaw, huh?
Well, I just think that Jason's a little more supernatural, and
100%.
That guy kicks ass, man. He knows how to fight.
Yeah, Leatherface isn't supernatural at all. He's just a big-ass bitch with a chainsaw who wears ladies' skin on his face.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go there, but you're right. You're right.
You didn't want that's literally what he is.
He's a leatherhead.
Leatherface slashes through the victims as Sally is held hostage in the home before, spoiler alert, escaping in the finale in total final girl style. So obviously, if you haven't seen it in 1974, still watch it. But like, this film actually for its time was like pretty gruesome. Like, it got a lot of controversy. People were like walking out of theaters like, man, this is a little too aggressive. And he's sawing people in half.
I feel like the whole series is like really based in gore. They were like one of the first really gory,
trilogies, genres.
Films,
yeah. During the opening credits of the film, this is what we talked about. There's a narration that states the massacre is, and I quote, one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, which left many people walking away from the film thinking the events actually took place. So they did such a good job with that piece that people are like, holy shit, it actually happened.
I'm never going to Texas until they ban chainsaws.
Yeah. I think people bought more chainsaws in Texas after this came out. Texas became the chainsaw state after this.
Sell out of chainsaws.
It's like, I don't know what happened. This movie came out and we can't stock chainsaws. Where the fuck? They're gone. Middle of the night, you hear, yeah, we're just driving around with chainsaws on their backs. They're going to the grocery store with a chainsaw.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
You can't buy liquor without getting a complimentary chainsaw.
Buy one, get one free. Take one to your neighbor. So this was a deliberate tactic used by Hooper to attract a wider audience via the old campfire storytelling method, right? You always sit down like, hey, this is a true story. It's going to scare everybody. Hooper also claimed that he wanted the misleadingly narrated information to respond to cultural and political discussions involving the government's deceit towards the general public during the 70s. So obviously he had a little bit of a spin on it.
The government never lies. Come on.
Right? Hooper recalls seeing the acts of convicted serial killer Elmer Wayne Henley's arrest and horrible acts all over the television in San Antonio in constant news cycles, which gave him the inspiration for the family in the film. So this killer I had never heard of, Elmer Wayne Henley. But he was the one who, like, he saw, what he talked about was how frequently he saw him and his acts spread across TV and how like easy it was to spread this manic serial killer. This is back in the like 60s or 70s, I think. So he was like, oh yeah, in the 70s. But he was like, oh man, it's really easy to like talk about this stuff. And that was kind of this serial killer gave him the inspiration for the family we'll talk about in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Uh-oh. But yeah, so it's pretty crazy. So Henley, so we're going to talk about him for a minute, was born on May 9th, 1956, and was a convicted American serial killer and painter incarcerated in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice System. He was convicted in 1974 for his role as a participant in a series of murders that became known as the Houston Mass Murders, in which at least 28 teenage boys and young men were abducted, tortured, raped, and murdered by Dean Corll between 1970 and 73. So he was mainly accomplice to this Dean Corll fella, which I had never heard of again. So Henley and David Owen Brooks, the other guy in this, were accomplices and together, as well as individually, lured many of the victims to Corll's home. So they were literally just the transportation. Henley, who at the time was only 17 years old, shot Corll dead on August 8th, 1973. He's currently serving 6 consecutive terms of 99 years for his involvement with the murders, which at the time were characterized as the deadliest case of serial murders in American history. Since he himself shot and killed Corll, and Brooks died in prison in 2020 from COVID, Henley is the only one in the trio of sickos still alive today.
Damn.
Kind of crazy, right? So we're going to jump into a little bit about what he did, but first, I want to hear about what you have.
All right. Let's go to the No Meat Reddit forum and talk about close encounters with serial killers.
No meat, so all veggies?
Let's not meat. No meat.
No meat, all veggies.
All right, this one is called Close Encounter with a Serial Killer on a Highway Rest Stop.
I don't know if you can hear. I'm getting close to the mic. Like you can hear hair growing on my chest from this beer. Like I can hear it. It's like just sprouting. I
actually coughed and I got a little poof. Dude, I'm gonna say like I feel like if you're ever gonna meet a serial killer, it's gonna be at like a highway.
100%. Yeah, if you're on an abandoned like highway stretch, either like early morning, or like as the sun's going down, 100%.
I got $1 for you.
You know the most. Right outside of Vegas. Mob dumping territory. Yeah. That's where you're going to run into people.
All right. This encounter happened in the summer of 2006 when I was 20 years old. I didn't get my driver's license until January of that year, and driving opened up so many doors for me that I took a lot of solo road trips to my friend houses in New England/Mid-Atlantic states. I also looked young for my age and was often mistaken for a high school student in my early 20s. I was driving alone on I-78 on a random July day on my way to visit my friends in southern Pennsylvania for a long weekend. Her parents were away and we had the house to ourselves and were planning on drinking/hot tubbing and watching Planet Earth drunk. It had just come out. Oh yeah, I'm a hot tub influencer.
Yeah, go and turn on that Planet Earth. We're going to watch some fucking cheetahs while we're drunk. Get crunk.
We're going to stream it.
Try not to fall asleep.
Maybe run around some cornfields at night.
Hey. They're asking for a serial killer.
Oh, yeah. This is like the plot of a scary movie.
Teenagers get drunk, go in the hot tub.
We really found ourselves afterwards. It's like a chick flick, too.
There's that cornfield. Let's just run around drunk in the cornfield and bang in the middle and hope we don't die.
I was so excited. I had a great drive listening to good music, and it was a beautiful day for driving. Right after I crossed the border from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, I stopped at one of those first rest stops to get gas and snacks for the last part of my drive. I have tried to figure out which rest stop it was, and I can't ID it, but it was a gas station with a large mini-mart. Opposite the gas station was the ramp back to I-78 West, and parallel to the ramp was a dirt road, which comes into play later.
That's not, I mean, it's just descriptive, but it's every off-ramp on a freeway is a gas station in front of a big mini-mart.
See, I was thinking when they said like rest stop, just like one of those like bathroom stops with like vending machines, but apparently it's just, off the highway.
When you walk in and the toilet's merely a suggestion.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Lord, someone's already punished this too much for me. There's poop everywhere.
Dude, I'm not even kidding. It's like plastered up the wall and the ceiling all over the seat, and you're like, No.
It's like
I guess I'm just going to shit my pants in my car because this isn't happening.
Somebody got some air in here. Like, I don't know.
Someone had some Taco Bell a couple hours ago. Jesus.
I was heading into a store when a man in his late 30s/early 40s approached me. He was a stocky guy, decently tall, I'm 5'1", had on a plain black tee and jeans with dark brown hair and a mustache goatee.
Killer.
He had come out of a black pickup truck parked a few spaces away from my car. He had a super intense gaze and immediately creeped me out. He just had a crazy energy about him. I don't really get vibes from people that often, but this was so strange. He stood too close. His gaze was crazy, direct, focused. His word choice was strange. Immediately set off all my alarm bells. He asked if I was from the area despite my Connecticut license plate, where I was headed, and if I knew of anything fun to do because he had plans later and time to kill beforehand. He invited me to go play mini golf or watch a movie with him. I did. Could you imagine that, like at a rest stop? That's just weird.
You want to go play some mini golf?
You wanna?
Ahoy!
You wanna smoke some purple drink over at the dirt road over there?
You know what I really want to do? I want to go watch some Planet Earth. He's like, motherfucker.
I didn't answer any of his questions, declined his invitation to hang out, and told him I don't know the area and walked away towards the store. I was blown away that he asked me to go somewhere with him. It was so random and uncomfortable. As I was walking away, he actually screamed out, "You are gorgeous!"
Oh.
And the volume and the tone made my hair stand on end. It was super aggressive and inappropriate, and he startled a family. He startled a family out of the store. It was so loud. I didn't turn around, but went inside.
Family's walking out with a bunch of snacks, and some guy's like, "You're gorgeous!"
God, I dropped my ho-hos.
Holy shit. Dropped his gas station hot dog on the pavement.
Just the dog.
Just the dog, not the bun. What a shitty way to go.
He came into the store shortly after and was staring at me, so I went to use the bathroom and I stayed in it for at least 10 minutes texting my friend about this creep. When I came out, he wasn't in the store anymore, so I took my time buying drinks and snacks, sour bright crawlers, and trail mix being the obligatory road trip food.
Yeah, those bright crawlers are like the best candy.
I love sour candy.
So good.
Straight up. If we ever get a P.O. box, send us sour candy.
Yeah.
I went out.
And beer.
Yeah, I know.
It's not legal. You can't send alcohol to Utah.
I went out to gas up my car. I was relieved his car was gone and started thinking about the rest of my drive and getting excited to see my friend. When I pull up to the road to get back on the highway, I hear someone persistently honking his horn and see this creep show on the dirt road parallel to the on-ramp in his truck honking, shouting and waving at me to drive over to him.
That reminds me of that movie Joyride. Did you ever see that one? With Paul Walker?
I don't think so.
Joyride was actually good.
Nah.
So good.
He was directly facing the gas station and had been waiting for me to pull up. I immediately freaked out and jumped on the ramp back onto I-78. He pulled onto the highway after me, and I called my friend extremely scared. You call the cops, man. You guys.
Yeah, you don't call your buddy.
I drove so fast and probably dangerously, and looking back, am lucky that I didn't get into an accident, but I didn't know what to do. He didn't follow me for that long, and I think after a few exits, he pulled off. My friend and I had a backup plan that if I saw his car again, she would direct me to a police station the next town over from her house instead of me directly going there and leading some freak to us. I didn't see the car again and went to my friend's, but the last hours of my drive, I was extremely tense and anxious. I remember checking my mirrors regularly for this black pickup truck. It all ended well. I got to my friend's house safely and we had a nice weekend. The encounter was definitely creepy, but over the years I didn't put much thought into it. A few years ago, around 2014, I was talking with another friend who is big into serial killers and mentioned my encounter jokingly, suggesting this was a serial killer. I had met and told her my experience. She was fascinated and wanted to Google active serial killers in Pennsylvania area at the time. The first hit was Adam Leroy Lane, and he looked almost exactly like the man I met back in 2006.
Damn.
Obviously, it could be my mind filling in the blanks, but the basic characteristics, 40s, tall but stocky, brown hair with a mustache goatee, and the time/area all matched. In my memory, he was a little bit slimmer than the pictures. And it was 2006, not 2007, when he was actually convicted of murdering women. Still, it's an odd coincidence and one I've never forgotten.
God damn.
I'm telling you, man.
I don't know how I would feel if you had an encounter, obviously, and then years later you find out it was a serial killer. Like, what goes through your mind?
I'd be grateful.
Obviously.
I didn't get murdered.
But like that would weigh on your mind, right? Like you'd have some like residual fear.
I mean, isn't it statistically probable that you talk to at least one person that murdered someone like in their life? Like not in like an altruistic way, like a cop, right? But like someone who just blatantly like murdered somebody. I'm pretty sure it's almost a statistical probability, or at least that you're within a close vicinity of that person.
Now I'm like combing my mind through everyone I've ever talked to.
Well,
like who's killed someone?
Not even someone that you've talked.
You telling me someone?
Maybe you were at the gas station where someone came in to buy some beef jerky that just murdered some, person in an act of rage that police could never pin it on them. Yeah. Maybe they weren't a serial killer per se,
but they murdered someone.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to jump back. So we're talking about Henley, the accomplice to all those murders. And again, it's kind of one of those situations we'd have to do a deeper dive to go into his whole life. But again, his upbringing was pretty similar to a lot of serial killers, right? You've got the abusive alcoholic father who beats his family, parents eventually divorce, trauma caused by hardship in school, drops out of school, goes into crime, fell into the wrong crowd, eventually ended up in the company of the other two who began their spree of killings and abductions. So it's kind of like that same thing. So it began with Henley being the one who simply transported the victims to the place that would meet their grisly end. There'd be a promise of marijuana and partying, which enticed the victims to follow. Upon reaching Coral's house, they would be given the promised marijuana and would party until the victims fell asleep, which then led to them being handcuffed and gagged and raped and tortured and eventually killed. All that horrible shit. At one point, Henley was handcuffed by Coral for not following the rules and not participating in the torturing and killing of the victims. Because, at some point, he was getting in the way of, hey, maybe, take it easy. I think is what he said. It's hey, take it easy. So he, was passed out and was handcuffed by this Coral fucker. So a gun was placed against his stomach, but Henley pled for mercy, promising to be more involved. It was this same night, while Coral was performing horrible acts on the victims they had kidnapped, that Henley pointed the gun at him and demanded that he stopped. He said, "You've gone far enough, Dean." This didn't faze Coral as he walked towards him, telling him to kill him and that he wouldn't go through with it. Henley fired a shot, hitting Coral in the forehead, but Coral continued to advance after being hit in the forehead. Another 2 shots were fired, hitting Coral in the shoulder. He then staggered out of the room. Henley fired another 3 shots, hitting him in the shoulder and upper back, which killed him. So, fucking 6 shots. I mean, obviously, I think he was, dead. It was just kind of his body's reaction of, keeping going, but... he released his victims and then phoned the police at Pasadena, confessing to his involvement. So obviously he eventually gained a conscience, but by that point in time, man, you've done way too much.
That's so strange. Why would you? That's weird. I wonder why you decided to go along with it.
Yeah. So there's that little snippet of those psychos. And again, they were the main inspiration for the cannibalistic family in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, right? Because if you remember, this family was the ones who would bring people in from the outside, and then that's where Leatherface would get them. So that was kind of the inspiration they got for the family.
Just have an arm on the grill, grab the hand, or just eat it like a
soup's on
chicken,
right? So there's some obvious changes, which is why it's simply an inspiration. But the biggest inspiration comes from the serial killer Ed Gein. So we're going to jump into his story a little bit. And again, much higher view than what we'd actually cover later.
I miss my mom.
So Edward Theodore Gein, born August 27th, 1906, died July 26, 1984, was also known as the Butcher of Plainfield or the Plainfield Ghoul. He was an American murderer and body snatcher whose crimes were committed around his hometown of Plainfield, Wisconsin, and gained him widespread notoriety in 1957 when authorities discovered his keepsakes and trophies, which we will get into. We kind of touched on it a little bit. He confessed to killing 2 women, a tavern owner named Mary Hogan in 1954 and hardware store owner Bernice Warden in 1957. So I think we talked about it, but isn't it 3 people and more is labeled as a serial killer? Or is it like 3? Like, I can't remember the exact parameters of a serial killer.
I bet 3 is what it is, and maybe a profile associated to it.
Okay, because he killed 2 people, right? So they never actually called him a serial killer, but like an American murderer. But anyway, he was originally found unfit to stand trial and was confined to a mental health facility. By 1968, he was judged competent to stand trial and found guilty of the murder of Warden. However, he was found legally insane and was remanded to a psychiatric institution. He died at Mendota Mental Health Institute from respiratory failure resulting from lung cancer on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77. He's now buried next to his family in the Plainfield Cemetery in a now unmarked grave.
Oh.
So jumping into his backstory a little bit, Gain was the second of 2 boys from George Philip Gain and Augusta Wilhelmine Gain. His older brother was named Henry George Gain, and his mother was fervently religious and nominally Lutheran. She would consistently preach to her boys about the innate immorality of the world, the evil of drinking, and her belief that all women, other than herself, of course, were naturally promiscuous and instruments of the devil himself. So every other woman on earth, according to this lovely gal, was promiscuous and straight from the devil. You know this reminds me of? What? Waterboy's mom.
Oh, yeah. So-and-so is the devil.
Foosball's for the devil.
Yeah. I like foosball, mama. I'll keep playing it. And Vicky so-and-so showed me her boobies, and I like them
I like them too. Oh, that's a good movie. So yeah, she's a lovely woman. Very lovely woman. She hated her husband, who was an alcoholic who struggled to hold down a job. He had various jobs like a carpenter, a tanner, an insurance salesman, but at one point he owned a local grocery shop for a time, but eventually sold it, and they moved to a 155-acre farm in Plainsville, Wisconsin, which became their permanent residence.
Now we have to like subside off like quarter-acre lots, and we're like broke.
I know, 155 acres, dude. I'm like, I got 0.45.
Billions of dollars.
Ridiculous. Imagine selling that now, dude. You'd never have to work a day in your life.
Never again.
We could just do podcasting every day.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to buy us 155 acres of land.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. His mother took advantage of the isolation and turned away any and all outsiders for fear of them influencing her sons. They were allowed to leave for school, but outside of that, they spent most of their time doing chores on the farm. So isolating her children, that's not going to cause damage in their later lives.
It's the overbearing mother trope in serial killers.
Mom didn't want them to have any form of freedom outside of tending to the crops, I guess, right? Because, every woman is a degenerate out for their seed, and, it's just not a good thing. Geen was described as shy with strange mannerisms. He would randomly burst out into a fit of laughter as if laughing at his own personal jokes. He couldn't have friends as his mother would punish him for trying. He did really well in school despite all of this, particularly in reading. His dad died of heart failure on April 1st, 1940, which was caused by his alcoholism, and at the age of 66. Him and his brother began doing odd jobs around the town to help cover the expenses. Ed took up babysitting for some time and related more to children than adults. On May 16, 1944, the brothers were burning away marsh vegetation when the fire got out of control and the fire department was called. Ed reported his brother missing once the fire had been put out, which spurred a search party. They found his body face down, and the cause of death was ruled as heart failure since he had no burns or other injuries. His dad died from alcoholism, and then they had this huge fire, and they found his brother's corpse face down in the area.
Pretty sus.
Right? It was later reported that Henry had bruises on his head, but police dismissed the possibility of foul play and ruled his death as caused from his asphyxiation. When questioning Ed about the death of Bernice Warden much later, questions were brought up about his brother's death. The case was noted that it was possible and likely that Henry's death was the Cain and Abel aspect of this case. Henry's death left Ed alone with his mother, who suffered a paralyzing stroke shortly after her oldest son's death, and Ed became primary caregiver of her. She eventually had a second stroke and died on December 29th, 1945, at the age of 67. Ed was devastated with her death and stated he lost his only friend and one true love and was absolutely alone in the world.
All I can do is make flesh lamps now and flesh gates.
Right. But before we get there, I want to hear about another potential run-in.
Okay. This one is, I met a potential serial killer in his home for work.
In his home?
Yeah.
I'm here to clean your bodies, sir. I mean, your basement, sir.
There's just a bunch of bodies down here.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
There's literally a leg in the attic.
Starting to smell, sir.
Still a leg.
No, it's my brother's leg. He gave it to me.
When the weather goes from winter to summer, you never know what'll happen. Like, what?
What? That makes no sense. It was that razor blade tornado came through. Leave it alone.
I met who I believed to be a potential serial killer in his home while working when I lived in Virginia. And the only reason I'm sure he didn't kill me was because I lied and told him my boss knew my exact location when truthfully, my boss would not have noticed. I was missing for 24 hours.
What a fucking boss that is.
Posted this in another sub, and I'm making appropriate edits over here. So I guess, we're getting the second version.
The refined version. The edited version. If you're going anywhere, folks, tell someone where you're at all times. Yeah. Like, this is Survival 101.
This is a long one. Bear with me. 2 years ago, I was working for a company as a person who measures houses. Most people haven't heard of it. It's where you essentially have an iPad and you go to people's homes and drop floor plans and measure rooms for carpet/hardwood flooring projects.
I've got the biggest house in the neighborhood.
I have the biggest
it's been measured.
Hardwood house.
It's the biggest, longest, widest house on the neighborhood.
Anyone can request one. I was 25 feet at the time. One of the few females that worked this position. I was actually really good at the job, so they gave me a lot of work, and I usually hit between 10 to 14 houses a day, driving all over multiple towns. This house was my last house of the day in the middle of nowhere, and I was exhausted. When I got there, I was incredibly annoyed because the customer wasn't home and was late for his appointment. 10 minutes later, he pulled up next to my car. He was a middle-aged man, balding, wearing a normal office job attire with tie and everything. He seemed a bit awkward, but was apologetic and let me into his home. Upon entering, the house was unbelievably spotless and organized. Minimal furniture and smelled like cleaning supplies.
I was going to say, it smells like bleach in here, sir.
Yeah, God.
What's with all the black lights? Nothing.
Why is there so much scratches on the hardwood? I didn't strike me as odd at first. He had two cats lounging in the living room. He first started acting weird as I was directed to the first bedroom. He mentioned, "Wow, my cats love you. They don't take to strangers like they usually." But his cats literally didn't move or come near me the whole time.
The hell?
I just nodded and smiled while I got to work scaling out the master bedroom on my iPad. He started inquiring about the electronics I was using. "Do they keep track of where you are on that thing?" Immediate red flag.
Do they know where you're at right now?
If you disappeared, could they know where you were last?
Yep, and it tracks everyone I can see, too. Your face is on camera, motherfucker.
Motherfucker!
This beer is so fucking thick.
This beer in this cold is really hard.
You're like going to pass out halfway through. Smack your head on the desk.
That's
what the fuck was that?
Yes, and my boss knows how long each job should take based on the scope of work. It's incredible technology. I lied without missing a beat. He agreed with it was amazing. "Be careful. Don't touch the gun on the nightstand. It might go off," he chuckled.
Jesus Christ.
This guy's a creep. Talk about immediate spine chill. I looked up from my iPad, and sure enough, there was a handgun on the nightstand. I knew instantly that I needed to behave like nothing that was happening was triggering alarms for me. He directed me to the second bedroom, and he said the exact same thing, warning me of the gun on the nightstand that was indeed there.
How many guns are on these Every room has a nightstand and a gun.
This was the moment I knew I was in danger. At first, I thought it was just my anxiety around guns, but at this point, the tension building between us was undeniable. There were only 2 bedrooms on the scope of work. I hastily met up with him. I'm in the kitchen and began running down the next steps, but he interrupted me. "Could you measure the basement stairs?" I forgot to add them to the list, but I think I might want to carpet them in the future. My heart dropped, but my stupid customer service conditioned brain could not figure out how to get away with saying no.
You just look at me, fuck no. Walk out of the house.
Yeah. He led me to the basement door, and you guys, there is no way he was planning on doing anything with these stairs. They were plank wooden stairs, L-shaped, going down, leading to an unfinished basement.
Nope.
Unfortunately, in order to get an accurate measurement, I had to walk all the way down them to the basement. Meanwhile, he stood blocking the doorway with a smile on his face, mentioning again about whether or not my boss knew where I was.
Jesus Christ.
I shortly replied, yes.
Kick him in the balls and run. It's over.
Once I got to the basement, I scanned the room quickly. There was not one, but 7 deep freezers lining the walls. In the middle of the room was a low-lit hanging ceiling light revealing an old television set, VHS tapes scattered on the floor, and an old recliner facing the TV. Behind the set of 2 white shelves full of VHS tapes. In this moment, I knew one of 2 things was going to happen. He was either going to let me go, or he was going to try to push me down the fucking stairs. I held my breath, put a smile on my face in an attempt to act my way out of the situation, and began to climb the stairs. All I could hear was my heartbeat in my ears. He was still blocking the door, no smile this time. As I got about to the 5th stair from the top, I felt him hesitate, which made me hesitate as well. You could cut the tension with a knife. And I finally understood the expression.
You're going to make a nice leather jacket.
Oh, God.
Excuse me? I meant, don't make any more racket.
To my absolute shock and relief, after 4 seconds, he stepped aside. I made a beeline towards the front door, not saying a word, when he stopped me again, saying, "Oh, before you go, won't you give my cats a treat? They've loved you so much."
Jesus.
He was holding a bag of cat treats. I quickly gave his cat a treat, thanked him, and practically ran out of the house, and definitely ran to my car.
Tell me you're a serial killer without telling me you're a serial killer. Literally.
You want to hop in my deep freezer?
Does your boss know where you're at? It's the fucking 4th time you've asked me, sir. Yes, and so does the SWAT team. Leave me alone.
Oh, that's a shame. The second I got out of his driveway, I had the most intense panic attack and cried. I tried to call my boss, but I was in a dead zone. The truth of the matter is that my boss would not have noticed I was missing for at least 24 hours when I didn't route my day the next workday. Yes, he would eventually have been caught, as it was my last known location, but I would have been long dead. I suffered PTSD over this experience. I couldn't sleep for a week. I was petrified to work my job, but had no choice. This day still haunts me. The worst part, I was so fucked up, jumbled, and in denial over the experience, I forgot to write down his address.
Oh. Yeah, there's not a question in my mind. That guy's a serial killer.
Hey, maybe he just liked to freeze meat, and he was just a
human
creepy
meat.
Dude. Some people are just creepy,
You ever had a femur?
Does your boss know where you are? That's a shame.
Okay, back to Ed Gein on a happy note. So after the fire, after his mom, brother, dad died, Gein held on to the farm and continued doing odd jobs for money. He boarded up any room used by his mother, including the upstairs, downstairs parlor, and the living room, leaving them completely untouched. Gein lived in a small room next to the kitchen and became interested in reading pulp magazines and adventure stories, particularly those involving cannibals or Nazi atrocities. Now, let's get into his crimes, the good stuff.
I gotta make my flesh lamps for my fleshlight.
Fleshlight? Jesus Christ. On the morning of November 16th, 1957, Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden went missing. A resident reported that the hardware store's truck had been driven out from behind the building at around 9:30 a.m. Warden's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, entered the store around 5 p.m. to find the cash register open and bloodstains on the floor. Frank told investigators that on the evening before his mother's disappearance, Gein was in the store and that he returned the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze. That's a lot of antifreeze, dude. A sales slip for the antifreeze was the last receipt written by Warden on that morning. On the same evening, Gein was arrested at a West Plainfield grocery store, and the Waushara County Sheriff's Department searched the Gein farm. Trigger warning, this is where things get gruesome. Warden's decapitated body was found in a shed on Gein's property, hung upside down by her leg with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes at her wrists. The torso was dressed out like a deer, and she had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle. The mutilations were made after her death. The investigators then began searching Gein's house. Big mistake. So this is a huge list of things that they found in his home. So get ready for this, Cleet. Whole human bones and fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin covering several chair seats, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls with several of the tops sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a female torso skinned from shoulders to waist, leggings made from human leg skin, masks made from the skin of female heads, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove, 9 vulvae in a shoebox, a young girl's dress in the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been around 15 years old, a belt made from female human nipples, 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, and fingernails from female fingers.
Jesus.
So this is all in his house.
He really was a Leatherface.
Right. So this is the guy where the main inspiration for Leatherface came from, right? You can see the uncanny. Yeah, it's not good. So these artifacts were photographed at the State Crime Laboratory and then decently disposed of. When Gein was questioned about his artifacts, he told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to at least 3 different graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies while he was in a daze-like state.
Okay, so they weren't all from, like, murdering people.
Well, he only murdered 2 people, right? Remember, they're the 2 gals, right? He claimed to have come out of this state in about 30 of his visits, where he would leave the grave in good order and go home empty-handed. So he's literally like, I don't know, I go into some weird state, and then next thing you know, I'm digging up bodies.
I was making lunch, and then before I knew it, I was digging again.
Yeah, like literally. On the other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women that he thought resembled his mother, and he took the bodies home, where he tanned their skins to make his paraphernalia. Soon after his mother's death, Gein began to create a woman suit, so he could become his mother to literally crawl into her skin. He denied having sex with the bodies after he exhumed them, stating they smelled too bad.
Ha!
That was the one reason, right? It was the smell. It wasn't the fact that...
smell.
God. So there you have it. Just a brief look into Ed Gein's batshit crazy life. So 2 inspirations for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? You had the one killer who, like, were the inspiration for the family, and then you've got Gein, who was the inspiration to Leatherface. So all in all, as of recording this, there have been a total of 9 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, with the most recent being February 2022. I think that was, like, released on Netflix. There's also several comics based on the films and a video game to boot. So I actually remember the first one I watched was the 2003 movie with Jessica Biel, and it freaked me out. Like, remember the beginning,
the
same
first one
thing.
I saw,
yeah, like the beginning, it really made me think like it was real, and it was so well done. So me and some friends watched it. The whole opening scene where the narrator claims like it's all real. We were like super panicked.
Like, why'd the lady shoot herself in the car? I'd be like, hey.
Yeah, that was wild. Well, because they were going back in the same direction.
It'd be like, hey, there's killers there. Let's just turn around.
Yeah, that part, like, I don't know. It's funny because like that part freaked me out because like they were in like that sweaty ass van and she like pulled the gun from her crotch and like shot herself, and I was like, that would smell so bad, that car with the ugh. Anyway. So, in conclusion, the events that the movie shows did not, in fact, really take place, but there were very real murders that inspired it. So, again, thank you, Jordan, for your suggestion on covering this topic. It was absolutely a blast to research, and, I'm actually kind of happy it didn't really happen in real life, because it was some freaky shit.
Britton, you can always be the change you want to see in the world.
Oh, yeah. I could be the just move to Texas, get a big farm, and then start buying chainsaws.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to be the creepy brother-in-law that like brings people in.
I mean, I could try.
Like he has a family that lures people in. Just on the porch drinking moonshine or Big Bad Baptist.
My name's Cleet.
You want to come in? I'm Cletus from the South.
From the South.
But yeah, no, it was absolutely a blast to research. So again, thank you for the suggestions. And as we mentioned earlier, and all the time, any subject you want us to cover on the matter, please send it our way at entertheabysspod@gmail.com. We're always happy to do deep dives into any fan-related content. And obviously, if it's a story you wrote, we're more than happy to narrate it. Whatever you want, just send it in. But and with that will go ahead and wrap us up for the evening. Again, I know we keep beating this one to death, but we are always looking for suggestions. So entertheabysspod@gmail.com. If you don't follow us on Facebook, I know we're pretty inactive on Facebook. We're both, it's not an excuse, but we're both pretty busy fellows. But send us a message wherever you'd like. We've got some pretty, hopefully, exciting opportunities coming up that we're excited to be a part of. If you want to support the show, we do have our Buzzsprout subscription tiers. We'll post the link in the description of the video. Thank you to our 5 subscribers. We've got Mothman, Devin C., the Conklin family, Haley, and Lou. Thank you all very much for your contribution to the show. And if you like us, spread us out there, send this link around to your family and friends who listen to us, and it really, really helps.
All right, if you're listening to us on Spotify or YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.